And welcome to this week's episode of Voice for Good, where we help you, the listener, be seen, be heard, and use your voice for good. And today I've got Stephanie Taylor. Now, if you want to know more about her, she is a legend because I only interview legends. Read the bio because I want to get stuck straight in. So, Stephanie, tell me a little bit how you are using your voice for good right now.
Hi, Elliot. I'm using my voice for good to inspire other people who are in the situation that I was in, who thought that business wasn't for them, that property wasn't available to them, that they didn't have the right connections or the right experience or enough money to get started in property or business and really live a life that they love.
Oh, so tell us a little bit about the situation. For those who will never read your bio, tell us a little bit about the situation that you were in.
Yeah, so basically I had my son Alex when I was 18, and that was really a struggle financially and in lots of other ways. For many years, decades even, I was operating at a much lower level than had the potential for, and didn't even realize that more was possible for me.
Okay.
And it's only in the last 5 years that I got started in business and property and speaking, which is what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
And it's been such an eye-opener. I feel the door has been open to this enormous room, a crazy Aladdin's cave of treasures, and all of this time I didn't even know it was there. But what I can see really clearly now is that everything that I'm doing now, I always had the potential to do if I had just realized it. And that's where I feel that purpose to inspire others to, open up their inner, yes, you can.
I like the whole Aladdin cave because I have a 3.5-year-old, so she's very much into Disney. So I'm just wondering, is there a Jafar around? If there's an Aladdin cave, there's a Jafar.
Yeah.
So do you have a Jafar looming anywhere?
Yeah, I think we all have our own Jafars. And my son used to love Aladdin as well. I think it's almost universal, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we all have our own inner Jafar, and who tells you, no, you can't. No, you're not good enough. No, you're not an expert. No, who would listen to you? No, don't get up on stage. No, you look a bit strange. And it's that inner Jafar that can sometimes be the most difficult enemy, and it's turning the enemy in inverted commas into a friend and your biggest supporter. And that's where you can really that's where I found that I've really been able to go a long distance in a very short period of time.
Yeah. So tell us about this season's all about the talk that made you, right? So tell us about the talk that made you.
Yeah, I can absolutely remember it. I've just glimpsed across to remember the date, and it was June the 6th, 2018. And it was in central London. We're based in Wales, so that alone was a bit of a big thing.
Where in Wales?
In Newport, just near Cardiff.
Okay, yep, got it. Yep.
Do you have a Welsh connection?
I used to own a property in Cardiff, ironically, and that's what bankrupted me. But that's another story. That's 2008 story.
Oh,
yeah. So recession, negative equity, had to give it up. But that's not about. Today's about you. So yes, that's my connection really to Wales. That's all I've got.
Okay, not a good one, but so we won't go there. But so my sister and I had gone, and my sister actually lived in London at the time, but we'd gone into London, and I was doing this talk, and at the time I was still quite nervous about speaking, and it was an extremely hot day. It was absolutely glorious, and I was
like
speaking
today. As we're recording this, one of the hottest days on record.
Yeah, wow. It's the Women in Property and Business in London. And I was feeling my heart racing, like every time I was thinking of it, my stomach was doing the flip all the way driving there.
Yes.
I was re-looking at my notes, which are all the things that you shouldn't really do.
Agreed.
But I didn't I didn't know better then, but I was beginning to find a rhythm with my speaking. So by the time that we got there, I had relaxed a little bit, and people had started to get excited about my talk, and were speaking to me, and I began to get excited about it and sharing what I was sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And so the lovely thing about that talk was it was quite a small one, fewer than 100 people, but a really good interaction. These were all people who were pretty interested in property because they'd given up this glorious summer's evening to come and listen to me. So so we had some wonderful engagement, and afterwards there was all the refreshments and so on. But the thing
is that code for wine?
Oh, it's as though you know me, Elliot.
I was just like, what's she actually saying? But yes, carry on.
Yes, there was wine.
Okay, the refreshments. Gotcha.
Yes, refreshment. There was refreshment, summer refreshment. But what made it the talk for me was that was in the June, as I said. But in the October of the same year, 2018,
mm-hmm.
One of the women who was listening to the talk wrote to me, and she actually, the email that she sent me was so lovely. I think I have it here.
Brilliant.
I was gonna read you a bit where she said she was super. Oh dear, I thought I had this all.
She said you were super inspiring, very charismatic. You really reached out to her. She emotionally connected to you, and she wanted to work with you.
Yes.
Is that about it?
Yes, that was exactly it.
Mic drop right here.
But I was totally blown away by that, because you always see, well, often you see yourself not in that great light.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so you're surprised sometimes how.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing yourself, I didn't do that right, I didn't do this right, that didn't land, that joke, well, this is just me, that joke didn't land. But then when it comes back to you, you're kind of like, wow, is that really how I came across?
Yeah.
In a good way, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So I was totally blown away, but also we didn't have our program in place that we have now. But she was so persistent that it just made me decide, yes, that we will create the program that we created. That program then that we started in, I started with that lady, but we then did it in earnest in 2019, as totally changed our business and our lives. And it all, one of the seeds of it was that talk in London.
Oh, brilliant. So it kind of was, for you, as about that ricochet effect. So you did the talk, and then everything that followed since then has been launching a course, serving other people to help them get into property, to help them change their lives. Do you feel it had an impact on you? So it helped your business growth. How did it help you? How did it help you use your voice for good, do you feel?
Yes, absolutely. Because you probably picked up that there was a lot of imposter syndrome that I would say that's still, it's always a work in progress, you know.
Yeah.
And so I had to step up and become a leader, be willing to be seen in public, to, well, promote the course, and to talk about myself in a way that, to say I know something that maybe other people don't. And that was kind of hard as well. But I've grown into that. And as you know yourself, with coaching, you're getting people through their own inner blocks.
Yeah.
And to be good at it, you also have to get yourself past your blocks. And so I became much better at going past blocks, and also much more empathetic to help the people that I was working with to get past their blocks and to get the results that they're getting.
So tell me, what was one of the biggest obstacles that you had to overcome? So you talk about imposter syndrome. Would you say that's the biggest obstacle you had to overcome that time you gave that talk, or was there something else? Because we've talked about Jafar. So was Jafar your imposter syndrome, or was there something else you had to overcome to deliver that talk?
Yeah, I think there are other people who criticize you.
No. Are you sure? Never. I've never experienced that at all.
especially people who knew you before.
Ah, those people. They know
Yeah.
best, don't they?
They knew you before when you actually weren't the person, and their voice is similar to actually your voice or my voice a lot of the time. Oh no, this is not what Stephanie does. Stephanie is not an expert on something, or Stephanie wouldn't be, speaking on Facebook, or or I don't know. So there was a lot of having to being willing to be criticized and to be okay with it.
So for you, would you say that's one of your biggest obstacles, dealing with external judgment of
Yeah.
those who knew you and going, who the hell do you think you are, standing up
Yeah.
there calling yourself an expert?
Yeah. And the other thing is that I think people encourage you at the beginning when
Yes.
you're small, and when you start to become successful, especially financially, there's kind of a level that's okay for you to achieve. But then if you go beyond that, or if you talk about your financial success, then I think people don't really like that. Or my experience has been some people have been really keen to shoot me down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true. I always said this, that people like you to succeed on their terms, right? So they're
Mm,
very happy for you to succeed as long as it's within the remit that they think you're entitled to succeed at. And when you push through that and you become bigger than that, that's when resentment kicks in. I do have some very past clients when I mentored. I don't do a lot of mentoring in that space anymore. No, in property. I mentored them over strategy, and now they live a great life. I mean, they developed this whole 6 on 2 off, and they're always traveling, and they're fantastic. They work really hard, and you do see those who used to know them going, "Oh, look at her! Oh, look at
yeah.
him!" But they're doing some great stuff, and they work their butts off, and they're entitled to do that, and they've built a massive property empire because they've worked really hard to do it. But I have seen people snipe at them because they remember them when she was a waitress, or when
Yes.
he was a cello player. It's like, well,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm not
And
going to succeed on your terms. I'm going to succeed on my terms. Deal with it, right?
and I think it's just a normal human reaction, and we all have that tendency within us, and we have to monitor ourselves and try not to be that way. But yeah, a lot of people do let it hold them back. I was watching a program about meerkats last night,
Oh yeah,
and
fascinating animal.
yeah, so cute. But there are things I didn't know about meerkats, but only one female meerkat is allowed to mate, and
Oh,
another naughty female meerkat was caught in the act, and she was ostracized to the outskirts of the community, and she was attacked and nearly died.
oh my gosh.
Eventually she was brought back in, but I think when people don't like us, we have that irrational fear that we're going to be left alone and we're going to die.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people do let it stop them from moving forwards.
Yeah, and I think it's the notion also that, success is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And, when everybody starts the marathon, everybody's together, but very quickly you find you're running your own race, and
Yeah.
no one's around you. And whether you're at the front or the back or the middle, right? And I think it's very much like that. It's like you are running your own race, and often you're on your own, even if you're surrounded by love and support. But often
Mm-hmm.
there's people who are just waiting to trip you up, and that's just the
Mm-hmm.
reality
Mm-hmm.
of it. So tell me, if I was to play devil's advocate, right, a little bit here,
Mm-hmm.
um, you took a risk which clearly paid off.
Mm-hmm.
So would you advise, even in the current climate, would you advise or would you encourage people to take risks and delve into areas they might not really know of to begin with?
Right, that is a great question.
Thank you.
So I would only advise the people who are in what I call the 5%. There are some people for whom um, they don't want to just have the 9 to 5 in security. They would rather work, 12 hours for themselves than 8 hours for somebody else. They want to live their own purpose, or they want to begin to step into that place. They've got that drive within them. It might be a tiny spark that they want to explore, or it might be already raging as a fire. So I think the answer is, for some people, yes, absolutely. Take the chance, follow your heart, do what your dreams, do what you want to do. That, you know, I think we all have our purpose within us of what we're here for, and if you get the opportunity, give yourself the opportunity to live that. Now, for some people, their highest values are security, and for them, working at their 9 to 5 and dedicating themselves to their family, or that might be their purpose. But for people who have that spark, I definitely say find a way to be able to live more into your purpose in a way that you can make money also from it, and you can live in it, you know, full time.
So, but how do you know if you're in the 5%? If you don't know if you're in the 5%, just carrying on the devil's advocacy here, not advocacy, but devil's advocate, right? Because when I was kind of pre-2010, when I launched my coaching business and then I launched my strategy business, I didn't think of myself as an entrepreneur. I didn't think myself in the 5%. I worked very hard, and, you know, I did what you said, and I made it quite high up in the training world. I was working with some big corporates. And then it's only through kind of like wanting to be a better trainer that I found coaching, to train as a coach, to be a better trainer. And that set me on my path. And then at some point I had to make a choice. So what would you say to those who might not know they're in that space?
That is another great question, because I wouldn't have known that this was for me. I had achieved some success in my career as well, which I was extremely grateful for, and felt very happy and comfortable to be where I was. But I think when you bring consciousness to your future, so for many years, when I look back on it, I was living without a clear pathway or purpose or things I was aiming for. I was going to work, I was coming back, life was going fast. But when you bring on this conscious life authoring now, and you think about each area of your life, and would you want to be in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, but maybe bring it a bit closer, 5 or 10. Where would you want to be, and what small things can you start doing now to bring yourself closer towards it? Because just being on that path towards moving closer to things that you actually want, bringing those thoughts into consciousness, will help you to over time discover where you want to be, and at least wherever you are, you're going to have a life that you actually want, that you're choosing consciously.
Okay, that's a very good answer, Matthew. And you roped your sister into it as well. So it wasn't just like, hey, let me put you, like, hey, sis, come here, I've got this great idea. Let's put this property empire, right? So did you have to do some pitching to your sister to enroll her, or was she like, you know what, I'm in?
Yeah, well, I did, because don't know if you've got siblings, but my sister, unfortunately, is a very annoying trait to have in a sibling, is she's always right. She's usually right.
Is she always right?
Not really, but she's usually right.
Okay.
And it's very irritating, because that means that I'm usually wrong. But she's very detail oriented, very look at the downsides, very talented at what she did. She was in banking, traveled all over the world with her various banks, showing other people how to do banking administration. The way she was running her teams, they asked her to go to lots of other places to teach them how to run their teams as well. So I had, and she'd always thought of having her own business, and she was so well qualified to do it, but she's very cautious, so she wouldn't have done it. But everything happened with a perfect timing, because it was in 2016, I had decided on this property business. It's a property strategy called Rent to Rent, where you can start with little money, run a property business that's high cash flow compared with the investment, and over time then obviously start to buy assets, etc. But that was the basic proposition. And I had become very excited about this and decided that I was definitely going to do it. And I had gone over to her place in Beckenham in London. We were all standing in the kitchen. But luckily for me, one of her friends was there who was interested in property. And I believe had done a few things in property. And so I was explaining all of this strategy, remembering I have no, not real business experience, no property experience to speak of.
Yeah.
And I was explaining how we're going to be managing all these properties with multiple people in them and finding landlords who are going to be giving us properties and everything, all like that. And, but luckily for me, her friend was absolutely interested and all up for it. And to my surprise, my sister said that she would come in with me 50-50. And thank goodness she did. Because any business, yes, obviously you need marketing and you need enthusiasm and you need somebody who's got that vision and they're going to get there no matter what. But you also need somebody else who's going to be dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making sure the accounts reconcile line by line, looking at all the contracts and all of that sort of thing. Yes.
Got you. Yeah, it's true. You do. Definitely need that, especially in the space you're in. I mean, most businesses need that full start, but in the property space, I think that's absolutely essential. So good. So it all worked out.
Yeah.
Happily ever after.
Yeah.
So far, so good. So what now? What's moving forwards for you in terms of using the voice for good, your voice for good? What does the future look like?
Yeah, I think that what we've achieved with our own business has been great. In a small way, we've taken on staff and we've got a team, but we've also bought a load of properties. And what we want to do with those properties is begin to work with charities and provide housing for people who find it difficult to get housing at the moment. People on lower incomes, people who are, well, single parents on benefit, for example, like I was. It's a lot of the time you cannot get, really nice accommodation in the private rented sector if you are on benefits. I know the government's made that illegal now, but I understand why that is. But we would like to go bigger into that space. I'm in the process, I mentioned earlier, of writing a book, which will be published later this year, called Rent to Rent Success, which is all about creating consistent cash flow so that you can live life on your terms. And the other thing that I'm really excited about and that we started doing is I listen to, you'll be familiar with Glenn Carson's podcast, the Dent podcast.
Yep.
And one of the episodes that I listened to was about the 1% pledge. And it's really the idea of giving before you're ready. So already we were giving to charities, but it was ad hoc here and there. But now through the Buy One, Give One platform, we're giving all the time, every day, as part of our normal business. And the 1% pledge is a great place for anybody to start. Almost everybody who listens to this podcast will be in a position where they can give either 1% of their income or their gross revenue or their net revenue or whatever they choose, or their time perhaps, to give to charities. Now, I find that when you align yourself in that way, it just makes everything feel so much more meaningful and like we're doing what we're here for, which is to leave the world in a better place than we found it.
I think that's brilliant. So if anyone wants to pledge 1% of their profits to me, I accept them very, very graciously. Thank you very much. I will gladly allow them into my space. I'm a very welcoming person. So, but no, I think on a serious note, I think it's an absolutely, and it's a brilliant idea, because you say 10%, people start to think, or, obviously if you look at who gives a crap, the toilet paper, and they give 50% of their profits, and there's a lot of companies that give a high percentage. I think everyone can start with 1%, so I think it's a great idea. So well done for that, and that's good to hear. You're using your voice for good, to inspire, to empower people who were similar to your situation. So I feel often it always relates back to where we started in many ways, and you always, you never really leave home in that respect, though. When you do go become successful, I find most people circle back to their original circumstances to give back, and I think that's fantastic. So where do people hear about you? Where do people find out about you? Yes, it'll be in the bio, but you and I know there'll be some people who never read it, like me, and it'll be bios. So how do people find out about you, Stephanie?
I'm going to answer that as well, but I didn't want to tell that story. I didn't want to tell the story about being the teenage mum on benefits. I think you probably find within your coaching, often people don't want to tell the story because they feel that people might judge them or it might be negative, and actually it's turned out to be really positive. So I just wanted to get that in there.
No,
But
thank you for sharing even more.
If people want to find me, then we talk about rents2rentsuccess.com. That's our website. You can find our stories, videos, and all sorts of things over there, and a bit more about what Rent to Rent is.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for coming on Voice for Good. You're certainly using yours for good. So thank you, and keep doing that. Keep inspiring and keep supporting. And I'd like to thank all our listeners for joining us again for another episode. And I'll end it how I always end it, which is be seen, be heard, and always use your voice for good. Till the next episode, look after yourselves.